Thanks to everyone that sent in their photos. I asked for a submission of your favorite Rolex or Tudor, or a photo of your entire Rolex collection so I can post it on the video and give a little friendly critique. First up is Steve with the Datejust 41 with the silver dial, fluted bezel, and Jubilee bracelet. He wrote that he bought it in March 2021 from an authorized dealer in Switzerland to celebrate a great year in 2020, published a book, developed a small but successful side business, and got engaged. He treated himself, ordered the Datejust at the end of 2020, and was able to buy it 3 to 4 months later. I think that's the way to go, to buy it from an authorized dealer. Even if you have to wait a few months, it'll make it more special to you. And buying this one from an authorized dealer actually in Switzerland, that's a win, and you get bonus points for that. The watch itself is a beautiful watch. It's great looking for several different occasions. I have something similar in a 36 with an oyster bracelet. The silver dial is very legible, and the hour markers, it gives a pretty nice contrast. And the dial itself seems to change colors according to the ambient light. It turns into a creamy dial when it's under warm artificial light, and when it's under cool lighting, it stays a steely gray. The 41 I think would be a little bit large on my smaller wrist, even though the diameter, I think it's actually closer to 40 millimeters. But it's a big improvement over the Datejust 2, which came before this. I think the proportions were off on that watch, and the bezel was too thick, but they corrected everything with the Datejust 41, and I think these proportions look great on a larger wrist. I would say this is a dress watch. It does look a little bit formal and businesslike because of the Jubilee bracelet and the fluted bezel, but I would wear this type of watch to work or at home or going out to eat or shopping. The Datejust is a great first Rolex, but I think you need a sporty watch to complement this. I think a Submariner would go great with this watch. But overall, a great pick for a Rolex. Next up is Chris with the Real Heavy Hitter watch. It's the Sky Dweller in steel and white gold, and he picked this up earlier in February from the AD after waiting 3.5 years. Any Sky Dweller is difficult to get from the AD, but the blue dial is especially popular and especially hard to get, so getting this from an authorized dealer, it's a pretty big deal. But that's part of the excitement when buying from the authorized dealer. You never know if or when you're going to get that call. It happened to me with the Z Blue Melgauss. I waited over a year for that watch, and I was starting to lose hope, and then suddenly I got the call that it was in for me. The blue dial is gorgeous to look at, and here in this photo you can see how the light plays off the sunray dial. It shifts with different positions, and it almost looks like the different parts of the dial are a different shade of blue. Being an annual calendar watch, it has all that added functionality, and that GMT ring in the center, it makes the dial more interesting to look at. And again, I think the command ring bezel has a nice proportion to it. Being that it's a large bezel, I can pick up the difference that it's actually white gold by the slight difference in shading of the color. On most of my 36mm Datejusts, the fluted bezel still looks like it's steel, but this one stands out on the Sky Dweller. It is a little bit large and a little bit top heavy because of the movement they had to fit in the case, but I have the Jubilee version, which conforms to my wrist a little bit better for a smaller wrist. But I think it fits well on your wrist, and I think this is totally understandable for this to be a favorite Rolex. I see a coffin in the back, and I wonder if it belongs to this one. But if this is your favorite, I think you probably have a nice collection, very nice collection of Rolex in addition to this one. Next up is KC from KC Timeshare, one of my favorite watch channels on YouTube, and he picked the Black Bay 58 bronze. This was a little bit of a surprise pick for me. I knew you liked this watch a lot, but I thought you were going to pick the Black Bay 58 or the Explorer 36. This is unique because there's not too many watches that are made out of bronze, and it's going to develop that patina heavily over time. But I think the color works great with the bezel, and the dial is actually a beautiful color dial also. And it's a little bit different because it has those Arabic numerals at 3, 6, and 9. Looks like it comes with both a canvas strap and a brass bracelet. But if it were me, I think I would wear it on the bracelet almost all of the time. The movement inside is very reliable, and the case size being 39 millimeters is just about perfect. Great pictures, by the way. It really shows off the beauty of this watch. I would recommend anyone to check out the KC Timeshare channel if you're interested in the best Tudor coverage. Here's an amazing collection shot from AllinHerMovement, another one of my favorite YouTube channels. This collection is pretty Rolex heavy, but it has an Omega thrown in and an Audemars Piguet also thrown in. There's a nice mix of pre-modern and modern Rolex here. Starting in the front is the Oyster Perpetual 41 with the rhodium dial. So this is the previous version before the OP exploded in popularity. So this is a little bit of a throwback, kind of a low-key watch, and good for everyday use. Next to that is the Datejust 41 with the blue dial. Another beautiful watch. The blue dial is, I think, the most popular for the Datejust, so that's a little bit harder to get than the other ones. The Omega Speedmaster is a classic. It wears a little bit smaller than the 42 millimeters, might make it look so, but it's a classic because they don't change the dial with their different versions or make very small changes. And it's an amazing dial, even more legible than it seems like it should be. And with the new version, I really like how they changed the clasp to make it smaller, and they put some taper down on the bracelet. And in the back is the Polar Explorer 2, the 5-digit version, which has a kind of a vintage look to it, and that 40 millimeters is really comfortable to wear on the wrist. And the LV Submariner also has a nice pre-modern look. I like that shine of that aluminum bezel, and this one's also very popular, and it sells at a premium price. And a couple more modern Rolex pieces is the underrated Milgauss with the black dial. My favorite Rolex in this box is the GMT BLNR. I think the Jubilee bracelet pairs so well with the blue and black bezel, and I've been wanting this watch for a while now, and I'm on the list at my AD for this. And there's a hidden gem right next to it, the AP Royal Oak. That's a super nice looking watch, very classy and very luxurious looking. I like that integrated bracelet and that bezel, and that dial is amazing also with that texture dial. Here's another nice shot, but there's something else thrown in, the all black GMT with the oyster bracelet. That makes a nice matchup with the BLNR, and I think this watch was underrated when it was out, but it's now discontinued, but I think it's getting more popular now. Another shot of the Milgauss with the black dial. I really like the size of this watch, and I like the combination of the orange and green. And again, I think this is a very underrated watch, and it might be discontinued soon. And the final photo is the Explorer 36 millimeter, the newest version, and this is her latest acquisition, and another one that I've been wanting to buy for a long time. I've been on the list ever since it came out, and I've never gotten the call for this yet. I have the Explorer 36 114270, and I like that. I like the size of that, but I think I like this new version even better, so I'm hoping to get this to replace mine. So really congratulations on this pickup, and enjoy wearing it. That makes 2 pieces in your collection that I'm jealous of. And I think I'm the first one to reveal your purchase even before you posted a video on it. So I'm dying to hear the backstory and the acquisition story behind this. And I recommend everyone else to check out her channel on YouTube. Next up is Frank V, and he couldn't pick his favorite, so he submitted 3 of his Rolex. And this one looks like the Sea Dweller 43. I can't tell which year this is from, but I have the one from 2020. But this fits much better on your wrist than it does on my small wrist. I consider this an upgraded Submariner or a Super Submariner. It is much thicker and much bigger and heavier than a Submariner, but it has that increased depth rating. And the bezel action on this is the best bezel I've ever seen on any Rolex. For me, I love wearing this on the weekend, and I love wearing it during the fall or winter with a coat or jacket or a heavy sweater. But for someone with a larger wrist, this could be a great everyday watch. Next up is something similar. It's still the Sea Dweller, but this time in a 2-tone with the yellow gold. Up until a couple years ago, I never thought this kind of 2-tone color scheme would work well on a dive watch, but I've changed my mind since then, and I think this looks great. About 3 years ago, I saw a Submariner 2-tone with the same yellow gold and black dial sitting in the display window, but I passed it up, but I'm kicking myself since then, and I should have grabbed that. I think a Submariner 2-tone would work great with a Sea Dweller in steel. Nice pen, by the way. It looks like a Mont Blanc Meisterstruck. I started using fountain pens about 2 or 3 years ago, and I've never looked back. It's a much better writing experience than a ballpoint pen. I love that tactile feeling with the scratchiness on the paper, and you really feel connected to the paper. So now I use a fountain pen whenever I'm writing or journaling as much as possible. And last is the Sky Dweller with the blue dial. And again, that's a beautiful watch. A nice wrist shot, and it looks great on your wrist. I think this would pair up perfectly with your SD43 in steel. You have the dive watch for doing activities, and then you have the Sky Dweller for doing everything else. It can be a daily dress watch and a travel GMT watch. So that's a great 3 Rolex watch collection for large watches. But I think the 2-tone Sea Dweller is a little bit too similar to the steel Sea Dweller. But I've been guilty of doing the same thing. So if you like both of them, keep both of them. But out of the 3, I think the favorite is the Sky Dweller. So thanks again to everyone that submitted their photos. It's always nice to talk about somebody else's watch instead of my own. But if I missed any of your submissions, or if you still want to submit, just let me know, and I'll be happy to do a part 2 video. And thanks for watching.